Two men, one table. A contract that everybody knew was going to end in chaos. And somehow, someway, it ended with a handshake and foreheads touching. What in the Samoan Islands is going on? If you watched the Go Home Raw before Clash in Italy, you already know the segment I'm talking about. Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu stood across from each other in that ring in Columbus, Ohio on May 25th. And what unfolded over those final minutes of the show was genuinely one of the most layered, emotionally charged pieces of pro wrestling storytelling we have seen in a long time. Not because anyone got put through a table, though Fatu did throw a table at security, which is very on brand for the man, but because of what was said, what wasn't said, and that moment at the very end that left people sitting on their couch going, wait, did they just hug? Let's break this whole thing down properly, because there is a lot going on underneath the surface here. First, let's set the scene. This wasn't just any contract signing. This was the go-home episode of Raw, the last major TV stop before Clash in Italy on May 31st, where Roman Reigns will defend the World Heavyweight Championship against his cousin Jacob Fatu in a tribal combat match. This is a rematch from Backlash 2026, where Roman retained the title, and Fatu responded to that loss by immediately going feral and demanding this exact stipulation, tribal combat. And Roman, bound by bloodline tradition, had no choice but to accept. Let that sink in for a second. Fatu essentially forced Roman's hand using the very rules that Roman built his entire empire on. That is chess, not checkers. Now, before anyone even walked down that ramp, the storytelling had already been going all night. Earlier backstage, GM Adam Pearce had a conversation with Roman Reigns, where Pearce floated the idea that given everything Fatu had been doing, the chaos, the attacks on the Usos, the general werewolf behavior, maybe Fatu shouldn't even have a job at WWE anymore, let alone a championship match. Roman's response to that was fascinating. He didn't say, yeah, fire him. He said the situation had grown beyond management's control. He explained that Fatu called for tribal combat, which meant Roman was obligated by bloodline tradition to accept. But, and here's where Roman really shifted into CEO mode, he said there needed to be consequences written into the contract. If Fatu loses, Fatu serves Roman. That's the stipulation Reigns demanded. Not just a win, submission, servitude, the full acknowledgement package. Now, I want to pause here for a second because this is actually a genius piece of character work. Think about what Roman is doing. He's not scared of Jacob Fatu. He's not even particularly threatened. What he's doing is trying to reassert the hierarchy. Because the most dangerous thing that Jacob Fatu represents isn't his physicality, and the man is terrifyingly physical. It's the challenge to Roman's authority. Fatu is essentially saying, "You're old news, I'm the future of this family." And Roman's response is to make the match mean something beyond just the title. Win, and you're the new head of the table. Lose, and you bow down forever. Roman isn't just defending a championship, he's defending a legacy. And the crowd in Columbus was absolutely eating it up. Speaking of which, if you're not already subscribed to WrestleCore, hit that subscribe button and smash the bell so you never miss a breakdown like this one. We do this every week. Welcome to the family. Okay, back to it. So Fatu enters the ring first for the contract signing, and Adam Pearce is there moderating. Fatu signs the contract immediately. No hesitation, no theatrics about reading the fine print, just pen to paper and done. Classic Fatu. Why waste time on words when you can start throwing furniture? Which he then proceeded to do. Fatu got angry at the crowd chanting OTC and started launching chairs and a table at the security team standing at the entrance. Just a normal Tuesday night activity. Then, Roman Reigns walked out, and the energy in that building shifted completely. This is the thing about Roman that never gets old. His presence. The crowd, the camera, the entire atmosphere of the segment just changes the second that music hits. He walks in, signs the contract, and then does something that was actually kind of surprising. He told everyone to clear the ring. Security out, Pearce out, everyone out. Just him and Fatu. And Fatu, for his part, agreed not to lay a hand on Roman until Clash in Italy. That agreement, that moment of mutual restraint between two people who clearly want to destroy each other, was genuinely tense. What followed was a war of words that had real emotional weight to it. Roman told Fatu that all he ever had to do was acknowledge him, and they could have avoided all of this. Standard Roman line, right? We've heard it 1,000 times. But Fatu's response was different this time. He didn't just snarl back. He actually acknowledged, no pun intended, that Roman was the reason the bloodline reached the heights it did. He credited Roman for the family's success, for bringing them power and prominence in WWE. He genuinely gave Roman that. But then he said Roman had taken them as far as he could, and that it was time for a new leader. He also pointed to Backlash, where he questioned whether Roman truly followed the code of the bloodline, or whether he bent the rules to survive. That is not a throwaway promo line, that is a dagger. Because the entire foundation of Roman Reigns' character, his whole thing is that he is the code. He is the standard. He doesn't bend rules, he makes them. For Fatu to look him in the eye and say you cheated to beat me on national television in front of that Columbus crowd is the most destabilizing thing anyone could say to the tribal chief. Roman had no real comeback for that, and honestly, maybe he didn't need one. He simply reminded Fatu what the stakes were: win and lead the bloodline, lose and serve the OTC. Fatu's response to the stipulation was genuinely funny. He called it a win-win situation. His logic? Even if Roman beats him, he still has a job. But if he wins, then Roman has to acknowledge him. He's basically saying the worst-case scenario is still fine, so what does he have to lose? That is the confidence of a man who believes absolutely in what he's doing. The Samoan werewolf came in here with zero fear, and that energy translated through the screen. And then came the moment. The thing that had social media completely divided. After all of that, the contracts, the stipulations, the accusations, the verbal warfare, the two men stood face to face, extended their hands, shook on it, and then touched foreheads in that traditional Samoan gesture, a hongi, a moment of mutual respect between two warriors who are about to go to war. Now, people online immediately started calling this a hug, which, okay, technically it was more of a forehead touch and a handshake, but the sentiment is the same. And the reactions ranged from "that was beautiful" to "why are they making these guys shake hands like they're at the end of a youth soccer game?" And look, I get both sides of that. But here's the thing, this moment is not an accident. This is deliberate storytelling. What makes this feud different from almost everything else on the WWE roster right now is that Roman and Fatu genuinely respect each other. This isn't a good guy versus bad guy situation with clearly defined lanes. This is a family power struggle. It's like a Shakespearean succession story where both people have a legitimate claim to the throne, and both people genuinely love the institution they're fighting over. Fatu doesn't hate Roman. Roman doesn't hate Fatu. They hate the idea of the other one leading the family. That is a nuanced distinction, and the forehead touch at the end of that segment communicated it better than any promo ever could. Think about what that image says to casual viewers who are just now tuning into this feud. It says, whatever happens on May 31st in Turin, this is not a petty rivalry. This is not two dudes who dislike each other. This is family going to war because someone has to win and someone has to lose, and the consequences are enormous for both of them. That's what gives tribal combat its weight. It's not just a gimmick match. It's a verdict. And with WWE holding Clash in Italy, there's also something poetic about bringing this match, rooted in Samoan heritage, bloodline tradition, and ancient family codes of loyalty, to a stage in Turin, a city steeped in its own history and culture. The world is watching. That's exactly the kind of backdrop that makes a story feel bigger than wrestling. Before we get to the final word, if this breakdown has been your thing and you want more content like this every week, make sure you're subscribed to WrestleCore and hit the bell notification. We break down every major WWE moment with the detail it deserves, and there's going to be a lot to talk about after Clash in Italy drops. So what does Sunday actually mean for these two? If Roman wins, Jacob Fatu, the most unhinged, unstoppable force on Raw right now, has to fall in line and serve the man he just called a fraud and a relic. Imagine what that dynamic does to the bloodline going forward. And if Fatu wins, Roman Reigns, the man who ran WWE for 4 straight years, who made Acknowledge Me a cultural phenomenon, who held the undisputed WWE Universal title for 1,316 days, has to bow down to the Samoan werewolf, has to follow, has to acknowledge. Both outcomes are fascinating. Both outcomes change everything. And the fact that a contract signing, of all things, a contract signing, managed to make both outcomes feel equally plausible and equally meaningful. That is the mark of a story that is genuinely being told well. Whatever happens in Italy, this chapter of the Bloodline story is shaping up to be something special. And that handshake, that forehead-to-forehead moment, might just be the last time these two men show each other that kind of respect before one of them walks out of Turin as the undisputed head of the table. Don't miss Clash in Italy on May 31st. And don't miss us right here on WrestleCore after it happens, because we're going to have a lot to say.